In today's podcast, I'm speaking with Chris O'Shea about the topic of VAT compliance. In particular, we are going to chat about e-commerce fulfilment and how VAT comes into play for international retailers when they sell to a global audience. Much of what we'll discuss will be relevant for North American sellers, but if you're a European seller, then there are some useful tips for you too. So Chris, what is the link between VAT and fulfilment?
Hi Quaylen. First off, I'll say that when it comes to selling internationally via the internet, there can be a lot to think about, VAT taxes being one of these things, and in particular VAT compliance. You see, when a seller sells a product to a private individual via their own web store or from a marketplace like Amazon or eBay, they need to check if they should be charging and collecting VAT as part of the transaction. How much VAT? Well, that depends on a number of factors, and one of these main factors is fulfillment. Where a product is shipped from, where it's warehoused and shipped to, all come into play from a VAT perspective.
So when it comes to VAT and compliance, the whole supply chain needs to be looked at?
In a way, that is right. When it comes to VAT compliance, you need to consider all the logistics and supply chain flows. In practical terms, if you happen to be a North American seller who sells to European consumers, you have many fulfillment options open to you. You can ship directly using FedEx or UPS, use a global parcel fulfillment partner such as Border Free, or you might use the global shipping program from eBay. And there are of course other options which involve shipping inventory in bulk to the European Union or using a program such as Amazon's Fulfilment by Amazon program. However, with all these scenarios, somebody has to pay the VAT. It really can't be avoided, I'm afraid. Who is ultimately responsible for paying the VAT? That depends on many factors, but one of the key things is the actual fulfillment itself. You see, in the world of e-commerce and international retailing, it can either be the buyer or the seller who is responsible for paying the VAT. Of course, if somebody is paying the VAT, then somebody is collecting it, and they would need to remit this to the tax authorities in the relevant country or jurisdiction.
So how can a retailer know if they themselves are responsible for collecting and remitting the VAT and not the customer?
Well, without being too prescriptive, if a non-EU retailer decides to hold inventory in an EU country so that orders can be fulfilled more quickly, then it is likely that they need to register for VAT in the country where the inventory is located. They may also need to register for VAT in other EU countries if they move inventory between warehouses in different countries. Then there is the issue of distance selling. This is when a seller sells goods at a distance or over the internet and delivers goods from one EU country to customers in other EU countries. When this happens, a country's distance selling threshold may have been exceeded, and that would mean that a seller would have to register for VAT in another EU country and charge the relative local VAT rate there. Now, for fulfillment scenarios in which the customer is liable to pay the VAT, this really depends on the terms of delivery that have been agreed with the fulfillment partner in the first instance. So if the terms are DDU, which is duty and delivery unpaid, then the customer pays the local VAT at the point of checkout or when the goods arrive on their doorstep. And if the terms are duty and delivery paid, DDP, then the seller will pay the VAT. This means that the seller registers for VAT and files returns in the country where customers are located.
Have you any other advice for listeners when it comes to VAT compliance and fulfillment?
Well, local sales tax, VAT, logistics, they will always be interlinked when it comes to e-commerce. So it's always best to get third-party professional advice and be sure about your VAT compliance. Now, Meridian, we have designed a graphic that provides a shortcut to understanding within the supply chain who is responsible for collecting and paying the VAT on international sales. So I would encourage listeners to visit our corporate website, meridianglobalservices.com, and download this infographic. And it's been designed in a way to help online sellers who are currently selling internationally, but it's also useful for those sellers who are considering selling internationally for the first time.
Great insight, Chris. We'll leave it here for today. In our next podcast, we'll talk to Chris a little more about some misunderstandings retailers have when it comes to VAT compliance.